Hi guys, and welcome to the legal ramblings of Bootylicious and Boobalicious. On today's podcast, we will be discussing help. My passport got stolen in Budapest with me, Boobalicious, and
Bootylicious.
get ready because you're in for a treat. Over to you, Bootylicious.
So how do we really start this story now? So, way back when we were, I don't remember this now, Boobalicious, you're gonna have to remind me. But a little story. We were travelling, or should we say, we were travellers at
Budapest. It was last year. It was.
Yeah. So we arrived very late in the night. Must have been, I don't know, about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock.
No, it was definitely past midnight. We were knackered. It was even for a short flight, we were still knackered because we probably worked in the morning and then ended up having to rush from work to then get to the airport and make our flights.
Yeah.
That's literally how we do.
I know. And also, might I just add that working on a day that we're travelling is not such a good idea, but I digress. Anyway, so we ended up arriving just after midnight. Actually, I do remember you all eating some food off the plane. What was the food?
I can't even remember now.
We had food that we had eaten on the plane.
It can't have been because I'm thinking...
No, we ordered Nando's before we...
Oh my God. Have you guys ever done this? So you've ordered hot food and brought it into a plane and all the other passengers are looking at you and hating. Oh my God, especially because it's Nando's and you all know how luscious Nando's smell. But in a packed out plane... Probably not, but...
We were giving deathly stares.
I think they were just jealous because they wanted a piece and we didn't share.
Oh, so. Absolutely. And then the Ferrero Rocher.
Oh my gosh. Funny story.
Totally digressed off.
We are digressing, but this is actually quite a funny story. So we're on the plane and Bootylicious bought a pack of Ferrero Rochers. And I don't know how this happened, but at one point we just realised the entire box had literally rolled to the end of the plane and all the passengers behind us just started picking up Ferrero Rochers off the floor. And then some were super confused and was like, what is this? And others were like, yeah, can we keep this? And at that point we just had to keep handing them out. But we digress.
Okay. So, having landed just after midnight, got out of the cab and actually rewind. Because we decided to take an Uber, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Good decision.
So
you'll find out in a moment why.
Yeah. So, we obviously ordered an Uber. I, Bootylicious, ordered the Uber and got into the Uber. And do you know, guys, one of those moments where your instinct, and this is why as a traveller you should never ignore your instinct, because that split sort of second where you're kind of in two minds about something, or you're in one mind about something and then there's a second mind that comes after that and derails you, always listen to your first
100%.
instinct, guys. Honestly, because I had my handbag, which was a little tote bag, and my passport. It was the Longchamp one, and I had my passport in the bag, but it was somewhat in it was kind of, the bag was open, it wasn't totally zipped, my fault, but I didn't want to put it in the back, in the boot, but the driver sort of said, no, put it in the boot, so I kind of just thought, oh well, okay, sure, put it in the boot. Anyway, when we arrived at the hotel, got out the car, and he had already started to unload all of our luggages and stuff. and unloaded the bag as well. And before I could even go back to like do a sweep, because
and we always do a sweep.
Yeah, Boobalicious is very thorough about doing a sweep about everything, because the amount of things that we have left behind, guys.
Exactly.
So before I could go back to, or we could go back to do a sweep, he had got in the car and driven off.
Literally zoomed at the speed of like a bat out of hell. Like a bat out of hell. And then it was then that unfortunately Bootylicious realised
passport had fallen out the bag. Oh my God, guys. The moment of, have you ever had your heart sink?
Yes.
Right into your stomach. Oh my God.
Imagine being in a whole new country for the first time, and the day that you land, you get to your hotel, you lose your passport.
Honestly.
Oh my God.
All sorts of things were, ran through my mind, and I was already in a state. The hotel were absolutely fabulous. The concierge, he came out and obviously had a conversation with us, asking us questions and asking if we had booked with the local cab company, and we said no. And we said we'd booked with Uber, and he said, Uber just, they don't really have like an office there.
Bootylicious, sorry, you have actually missed a key part of the story.
Oh my God, what have I forgotten now?
So remember we tried to call him.
Yes. Oh my God, guys. This gets worse. So, using the Uber app, I decided to ring him straight away. And guess what? He didn't answer the phone. So he let the phone, and Uber, I didn't know this, but guys, this is also another information. When you're traveling in a strange country that is not your home country, Uber only lets you ring the driver twice.
That's so ridiculous. Uber, you better change your
You need to
policy.
change your policy, because stranded passengers abroad, that's not a good thing. And needing to get hold of someone and not being able to get hold of anyone, that is just diabolical. Anyway, rang the first time, he didn't pick up. Rang the second time and he didn't pick up. And at that point, Uber, the app, just cut me off and said, we've passed this on to the customer service team now, who will contact the driver on your behalf.
Automated, maybe.
Automated. Oh, guys, that Uber, you need to seriously fix up. Oh my God. Try to ring Uber, because it could recognise on my phone that it was, I was not at home in the UK, that I was abroad. It automatically kept routing me to an international number, which was also a dead end, because that international, whatever, Dropbox or whatever it was, would then reroute me back to almost like a kind of vicious cycle. So never got to speak to anyone. When I tried to call the UK number, it could again see that I was abroad, so it kept routing me to that international number, which obviously had no one to speak to. It was an automated thing, and couldn't get hold of anyone. Could only message on the app, but you couldn't message at that time of the day because no one was obviously there to answer. Oh God.
It was palaver after palaver.
Guys, to tell you that I slept that night would be a lie. The hotel, obviously, I had my passport. This is another tip, guys. Always make sure you've got a digital version of your passport, either as a photo on your phone, in your camera roll, or scan it as a PDF document. I obviously had it on my phone as a photo on the camera roll. So I was able to show it to them, and we obviously checked in. And I was just besides myself, wasn't I? Oh my God.
If we could leave that night, you wanted to get back to the comfort of your home in the UK.
Honestly. Guys, I had so many crazy ideas. I decided to call another Uber. This is how panicked I was.
By now it's like half one in the morning.
Oh my God. Called another Uber and please believe you me, that Uber driver didn't speak a word of English, so we needed a translator so we had to get the hotel concierge to come out and do translation. And the Uber driver, so he the hotel concierge summarized the story and told the Uber driver and said we were looking to go back to the airport to see if we could recognize or if we could find the driver that dropped us off, because another crucial part of the story was missing. I forgot that I'd taken a screenshot. As soon as he had driven off, I took a screenshot because I realised obviously I'd lost the passport, so I went back into the app and took a screenshot of the app. But of course, this is another really key thing, guys. When you land or arrive with an Uber, always take a screenshot of the license
Uber
plate.
does another diabolical thing and gets rid of all the information. Well,
exactly.
At least in Budapest,
well, the driver, yeah.
So if Bootylicious didn't do that, we would have been royally screwed.
Honestly. So I'd taken a screenshot of his photo. That was the only thing that was on the app. His driver's license plate wasn't on the app anymore. It was just totally it was gone. Like it was like there was no record.
Existed.
Honestly,
like it never happened. Like we imagined it.
Oh my god. And this is another tip for you guys. Download, if you don't have it, download an app called Notification History, because that app was my saving grace in this situation. Although I got the photo of the driver, I still didn't have the license plate. But then I remembered that I had this particular app because people were always sending me messages in the past and deleting them, and I was always curious as to what they were doing. So I had this app that told me, quite nosy, told me everything. Anyway, so I had this app and I was able to quickly, because obviously with the app, with Uber, it sends you a notification when the driver is arriving, and the license plate, it's on there as well. So the app had a record of that, so I was quickly able to download that information and save it. So when we got chatting to that new Uber driver, he then said, whilst Uber doesn't necessarily have an office here, they do have a liaison office, which we could go to in the morning, and he kindly gave us the address. But this information, can I add, guys, was not anywhere on the internet at all.
Yeah, we would have never known that they had a dedicated kind of office.
Honestly.
Which was quite local to us, luckily, to where we were staying. Exactly.
Yeah.
So we were able to essentially, you couldn't really sleep that night, of course, because all sorts. I think you were thinking that your passport was halfway across the world. It was going to be sold
in the dark web,
black market, cloned. Who knows?
Human trafficking, all sorts. I was so paranoid. Kept thinking, would I have to go to the British Embassy to report this?
Yeah, but we thought, you know what? Let's try this last ditch attempt to try and see if by any way the passport would have ended up back into the Uber office. So what happened next, Bootylicious?
So first thing at the crack of dawn. Who was up? I was already up. I was ready, and Boobalicious wanted to have breakfast. Do you actually have breakfast?
I feel like we both had breakfast because we needed to get energy to prepare us for the day ahead of us.
Honestly, if I tell you I remember that breakfast, I would be lying. All I remember was we then had to call another cab. Did we call another Uber, or did we actually just...
I think the concierge helped us.
Oh, yeah, he called a cab for us. And we went down that local office. And as soon as we got there, we opened shop, didn't we? Because they weren't open.
They weren't open, yeah. So that's another like part of the story.
They opened at 11 o'clock in the morning.
They opened at 11 o'clock in the morning.
What sort of shop opens at 11
I know, and it was just very frustrating because obviously, if you can imagine how Bootylicious was feeling, like no passport, we weren't able to make contact with the driver. So at this point, we're both in limbo, wondering whether, even if we get there, whether her passport will be there. So it was quite a very stressful situation. And of course, the fact that we had to wait until it opened, and it was just a whole palaver. So we did actually, I think that's why we had breakfast, because I think we realised that they opened later. So there was no point in us kind of camping out at 9 a.m. waiting for them to open. So they did eventually open. And what happened next?
And got talking to one of the guys. He was quite helpful, actually. He said, have we got any sort of details of the driver? And I said, well, I've got a photo of him. He says, oh, well, a photo is not going to be helpful because he's got over 3,000 drivers.
Or something ridiculous.
Some ridiculous thing. I don't know if it was for the whole country, but he had a ton of people and he would have to go through each and every one to locate the photo. So he asked if we had a license plate. And that there, guys, oh my God, the saving grace. That was the moment where I realised that app was literally... So notifications history, whoever made that app, shout out.
Shout out, shout out, shout out. That's the Ghanaian way of saying it. Shout out, shout out.
Honestly, that app was a lifesaver. So I quickly went into that app and obviously got the information. As soon as I gave him the license plate, he located the driver.
Narrowed him down
instantly, and then gave him a phone call and told him, obviously, 2 girls are here. They forgot their passports.
And he bloody had it.
He had it all that time.
Never contacted anybody.
Oh my God.
Didn't
answer the phone when I rang.
Exactly. Because if he was a decent human being, he would have come back to the hotel first thing in the morning.
Exactly. Wow. Oh my God. And to think that he ignored the 2 calls that I called straight after it happened. Anyway, guys, you will not believe this. Actually, you can probably guess where this is going at this point, because if he held on to the passport for that long, you know what's coming. Of course, he asked for payment.
For coming back to the office, the Uber office.
And I actually said I didn't mind paying it. I absolutely, fair game. I was like, okay, fair enough. You know, he's going to obviously come back from wherever he is, and, you know, that's going to take some time, and it's going to take petrol or whatever. Happy to pay for it. But then he said, oh, I'm not coming back for another 2 hours.
Oh, I know.
Oh, my God. At this point, I was slowly losing my mind. And then what did we have to do? We had to walk around the mall.
Just walk around, find food, just something to pass the time, because...
Ended up having some juices.
Oh.
like some smoothies or something.
Something. I can't even remember it because I think we were so tense and so stressed. You just wanted your passport, and this guy was effectively just taking the PISS. So, you know, it wasn't very helpful to be like, well, I'm 2 hours away. I'll come to you then.
He wasn't 2 hours away. No, he said... He was still doing his business, and he wouldn't come until after 2 hours.
Oh, okay, yeah. Even
so
worse.
It wasn't 2 hours. I was like, well, I'm paying for you to come, so please do come now. Yeah, like I'll pay for your time. I'll pay for your petrol.
Yeah.
All I need is just my passport. Oh, anyway, guys, 2 hours later, no, 2.5 hours later, he turned up and obviously got my passport, and then he obviously wanted payment, which I did. I had to do it through the app because at this point I was so wary of being scammed. So I did the payment via the Uber app. I told the guy who had arranged for him to come back that I would do, and so went through the process. That was the first time I'd ever done something like that on Uber. I didn't even know that there was an actual procedure for paying an Uber driver for returning your stuff.
They made it up.
They did. But it was there in the app, apparently.
Yeah.
Might have been just something that was quite peculiar for Budapest, I think. But it didn't quite... It shocked me. But I think all's well that ends well. And that was kind of a lessons to learn moment. So, guys, I think the sort of lessons to learn from this particular life's episode, or legal lessons to learn, is,
or what we would do in hindsight. Yeah,
I suppose for us is that kind of legal. The first bit is the legal obligation around what Hungarian law requires from foreigners in that situation. So first and foremost, Hungarian law does, and we've done a bit of research, or I did do a bit of research into this when all of this had happened. Hungarian law does require foreigners to be able to identify themselves if asked by the police. So you want to, well, for me, I kind of steered clear of anything that would require me to, go down that road of having to be identified. So normally you carry your passport, or, if you're an EU or EEA citizen, then you'd have your ID, your national ID card. But if your passport's stolen or lost, like my case, not necessarily lost, you know where it is. But even if it's not necessarily lost, you know where it is, but it's lost or stolen, then in that situation, I think if I hadn't been able to get hold of the driver, I would then file a local police report, because that would be the first step towards making sure that that record was sort of put down somewhere formally. So if it is stolen, you need to do that particular step according to Hungarian law. So just remember, guys, if you're in a situation where you're actually sure that your passport is definitely stolen, you might want to consider that option. If it's lost, then it's obviously not strictly required, because if there's a chance that you might get it back. Like in my case, I thought, no, I'm going to try first and see if I can get it back. And if that doesn't work, then obviously go to the police. But yeah, so sometimes, the recommendation is you might want to file a police report anyway, even if it's lost. Why? Usually because it might be needed by your embassy later on, if you have to eventually get a travel document to go back. And also, if you've got travel insurance, your company's going to, or your travel insurance company is going to cover the expenses related to that particular loss, because this is, I think, one of the, Boobalicious corrects me if I'm wrong, but I think this is one of the types of things that are usually included under travel insurance.
Yeah, so you can probably claim for the costs of your passports if your insurance does cover that. Yeah. So always check. One thing to always remember, kids, get travel insurance, because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, good shout, Boobalicious.
Thanks, Bootylicious. So as Bootylicious just said, the consulate, or your embassy. So kind of the next thing that in hindsight we would have to have done, if unfortunately Bootylicious didn't recover her passport, is to contact your country's embassy. So we would have had to go to the British embassy or consulate in Hungary. So specifically, they're the ones who can actually issue you some form of emergency travel document. This is sometimes called a provisional passport, and this will essentially allow you to fly back home, back to the UK, to otherwise continue your journey. So, of course, the exact requirements can vary country to country, but you will generally need the police report, as we've already discussed. Again, some form of identity proof. So if you had, pictures of your passport, or if you do have any identity card with you. Luckily enough for us, we had our driver's license. So that would actually be a valid form of identity if they don't accept copies. Yeah. They would also need passport photos. You'd need to go and take a trip to the photo booth. So exactly. So you'd then need to go and get new passport pictures printed that meet the standards, and probably pay a small fee, because nothing in life is free and there's no such thing as a free lunch.
Yeah. As my mum would say.
So usually, once you are essentially provided the emergency passport, they're typically only valid for one single trip and a short time frame. So it would be something that's enough to get you back home. I mean, we were only in Budapest for about a week. You know, I mean, it wouldn't be the best situation, but we still could continue our holiday and at least know that Bootylicious could get home safely.
I was not going to continue the holiday until I got that passport.
Wow.
Just saying.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
I was such a nerve wrack.
You are a nerve wrack. You see, she's getting triggered.
I am so triggered, guys. Please do not ever let a taxi driver zoom off without you doing a sweep. And he never gave us that opportunity. So, you know, there's quite a few kind of lessons learning opportunities that presented themselves afterwards. I should have just sort of, like, whilst he was doing it, not forced, but certainly just inserted myself into it rather than, you know, trying to get out of the car and he had already done half of it. So, as Boobalicious said, after you sort all of that out with the embassy, sometimes actually we do need to cover people who are not necessarily EU travellers. So if you are a non-EU traveller, there is a good chance that obviously you might be on a visa or a residence permit. Now, that gets even more complex or tricky, because your resident permit and your visa will be normally inserted into your passport. So that does leave you in some sort of legal limbo, because that document is what gives you your legal permission to be in the country. Now, one of the key things that I think if I was in that situation I would have had to do would have been to notify Hungarian Immigration Authority, ASAP, and I think they're called the National Directorate General for Aliens Policing. Guys, the name sounds very scary.
Alien policing. That's how you know. That is how you know, guys. No offense to any Hungarians, but that is how you know.
It sounds like something straight out of space or Star Trek.
Yeah. Shout out to any Trekkies out there.
Yes, please. Oh God. No, I was going to quote Spock, but I forget what he always says.
Live long and prosper.
That's it. You actually do know it. And I'm the Trekkie.
I know.
Yeah. So, yeah, they can issue you with a temporary residence permit, which will only be valid inside Hungary. And that way you can then remain legal in terms of your status whilst you're waiting for your own embassy to replace your passport. And obviously you have to then go through the entire hassle of getting your whole visa put back onto your passport, which I'm sure costs a fortune, but you know.
Yeah, so as Bootylicious already talked about, if you're a non-EU citizen, there's sort of extra measures. Whereas if you are in fact an EU citizen, it's not just EU, but EU, EEA and Swiss citizens, then the rules are slightly easier. I mean, go figure. So essentially you are legally entitled to stay in Hungary with just some form of national ID card, okay? So if you do, of course, happen to lose both, so obviously Bootylicious just lost her passport, but if she had also lost her identity card, then of course you need to go back through the entire process, i.e. going to the embassy for help and to get some sort of emergency travel document. So even though, you know, EU nationals or citizens have this kind of safety net, of course they're not completely exempt from the process. So that's always something that if you are in fact an EU national, you need to be aware of.
Yeah, so I think it's just worth talking about some practical considerations, because I feel like we touched on quite a few as we went through the story, the very salacious story.
Salacious.
But yeah, let's just talk about some real, like, world practical considerations that you might want to consider, because quite a lot of nasty thoughts did run through my brain at that time when I was so panicked, and I think it's worth highlighting some of them. So, for a start, just be aware that the police can detain you if you can't prove your identity on the spot. Now, it might be a good idea to sort of stay in your hotel until you are absolutely ready to go and either make a report to the police, or you're actually, in my case, I was going to try and recover the passport myself. So always carry your police report if you've already reported to the police, and any other sort of ID with you until you get your new passport. Travel insurance will normally require a police report to reimburse the expenses which are related to the lost passport. So please do be aware of this, because it's no good losing the police report afterwards, after you filed the police report. I mean, the police will always have a record, so you could probably obtain a copy, but it's always good to take a quick picture or scan of it once you get it. If you are a minor, well, I don't want to say if you are a minor, because if you are a minor, you should be with an adult. So if you are an adult with a minor, then you need to remember that you can't leave Hungary without valid documents. And, that means that as a parent, you're not going to be able to, or guardian, or whoever you are traveling with the minor, you're not going to be able to just vouch for that minor. The embassy has to also issue an emergency document for that minor as well. And I think that, it's safe to say that also includes babies. So if you're in that boat where you're traveling with a toddler or any such sort of child, then you need to be aware of that is an extra protocol for you. And once you do get your new passport, don't forget to update, if you are a non-EU resident, don't forget to update your visa or any other sort of residence permit, which would have your immigration record on it. So, and that's just to make sure that it doesn't, your legal stay doesn't quietly lapse. So those are some practical things you might want to think about, or I would do, certainly would. I did think about at the time. I just thought, by implications, what might this mean for other people?
Thanks, Bootylicious. So we've kind of discussed a lot, but as we always do, like to summarize what we've discussed. Key takeaways. Okay, so if you do find yourself in the very unfortunate situation where we do hope it never happens, but never say never, unfortunately, and these things do happen. So if you do find yourself in a situation where you do lose your passport in Hungary, first things first, report it to the police. Second, contact your embassy, your local, as in your country's embassy or consulate, for an emergency passport. If, for example, you also hold a visa or some sort of resident permit, notify immigration. And then lastly, once you have been granted your emergency documentation, please make sure you carry your identification with you at all times. I think, as you already heard, especially for Bootylicious, this was an incredibly stressful process and situation. She was lucky that you even found.
I was going to just say, some extra things that might help, things like Uber when you're not in your home country. I think it's worth bearing in mind that Uber tends to operate slightly differently to how things usually operate, and you should be prepared for that. It was definitely an eye-opening experience for both of us, because we didn't expect that. We just expected the standard of Uber to be the same everywhere, and that was certainly not the case. No good shout out to Uber. Please fix up, thank you very much. But it's just worth noting that there are discrepancies in the way that they operate in those regions, perhaps because of legal requirements and whatever other
or lack thereof.
Exactly. So it's worth remembering that. I will definitely recommend that anyone who has the opportunity to use notification history, please do that, because if you're someone like me that can't be bothered to take a photo, if you don't want to if you think downloading apps is too much for you, then take a photo of the Uber before you get into the car. Always take a photo. I think this is part of our system now.
Our new system, we're always going to take a picture of the license plate, because that's always going to be trackable, traceable.
If you need to send that to a family member or a friend, then
if you end up at the police station and you need a record of what taxi or which cab you went into, there's the record.
Yeah, so I think as a matter of course, that should be a thing to do. And equally, I would say do not ignore your instinct. I think that was that's where I went wrong.
Yeah.
Because that split moment or split second where my mind sort of said to me, take your bag and keep it with you in your lap, I should have just done that. Having been convinced by that driver was the worst thing I could have done, listening to him. No, leave the bag in the boot, leave the bag in the boot so you'll be more comfortable, or whatever else other justification. Not that it was a terrible idea. I should have, if I just kept my bag on my lap, with me in the car, none of this would have happened.
Exactly.
And we wouldn't be actually here telling you this story today.
Yeah, well, we have to well, there is always a silver lining.
There is.
So we can impart our wisdom and our experiences onto you lovely people. So, all's well that ends well. Super lucky that you found you recovered your passport.
Managed to recover
the trip wasn't completely lost, but it could have very well been.
We had more dramas on that trip, but that will be for the next podcast, because
we won't give it away now. But let's just say it's good.
Yeah, we had more dramas that happened to other people who we saw, not necessarily us. So that was the end of dramas for us. But we did witness some very strange events. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and what was the last thing? I think it's after follow your intuition and always do a sweep. Always do a sweep. That's the final four words of practical wisdom there. Always do a final sweep before you leave, to make sure. Okay, guys, so that wraps up today's episode of our podcast. If you found this useful, subscribe, please, and share it with anyone who's travelling or living abroad, because you never know when losing your passport might go from abstract to very, very real, as you have seen in my case, Bootylicious. I'm Bootylicious, and thanks for listening.
And I'm Boobalicious, and thanks for listening. Just a reminder, guys, this podcast is for information purposes only and does not constitute legal advice, nor does it create a lawyer-client relationship. Laws and procedures can change, and they may play differently depending on your nationality or personal situation. If you find yourself in the unfortunate situation that you lose your passport or face legal issues in Hungary, then you should contact your embassy, consulate, or qualified legal professional for advice specific to your case. So that's us, Bootylicious and Boobalicious. Until next time, bye.
Stay safe, stay legal, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.